Can you beat Final Fantasy VII Rebirth with only Tifa and no HUD? What kind of challenge is that? Okay, so when the PC version for Rebirth was announced, I was already looking forward to getting this game again. Last year, Final Fantasy VII Rebirth quickly became one of my favorite games of all time. It basically shares the first place with these 4 games. But now that it's on PC, I can easily mod it and try out some fun challenges. One of them is a challenge I wanted to do even before finishing the main story on PS5. A Tifa-Only run. I already made myself very clear why I love Tifa's gameplay and Rebirth's combat system in general, but man, what's better than playing Tifa in a group? Being alone with her. And while I was looking for the right mod, or rather, before I ended up using Cheat Engine, I found this nice no HUD mod. And what's better than being alone with Tifa? Stripping her naked of every distracting element on screen. This will make things astronomically more difficult for a number of reasons. I don't see my health, I don't see the enemy's health. Their stagger bars, MP, inventory, spells, you know what I'm getting at. Considering the kind of enemy groups coming up, managing attribute advantages with only Tifa will be very difficult, so we gotta make a few rules before we start. Rule number 1. I'm only allowed to turn on my HUD to see my menu at the start of each chapter once to equip me. Armor, abilities, manage my shortcuts, etc. And of course to save my game, because otherwise this would be a mess. Rule number 2. I am not allowed to check what I have equipped or how my shortcuts are customized. If I forgot after equipping, that's my problem until the next chapter. Rule number 3. Absolutely no HUD for everything else. Sadly, I can't play with a party consisting of only Tifa. I tried it, but cutscenes will just softlock me. What I can do is making my party not fight at all, so that way I'm still all by myself and cutscenes work as intended. I couldn't fight bosses all by myself anyway because of their intros, so it doesn't make that much of a difference. It's also very funny to fight hordes of monsters while the party is just watching you from a concerning distance. Please ignore the low poly graphics by the way, I'm glad the game is running that good on my PC. Give it the time it needs to load everything, it takes a while. So without further ado, let's get into Final Fantasy VII Rebirth as Tifa. We start our adventure in the Grasslands. If you wonder why I didn't try to start in the flashback, that's because I want this journey to be Tifa's. I wanted to start right where the FF7 remake ended. Back in Nibelheim, she didn't have this determination. She was already working out, but was busy watching Berlin Tag und Nacht instead of saving the world. But now it's her time to shine, and without any gameplay elements on the screen, you really do feel like Tifa. If she would look at herself from a third-person view, of course. Fighting enemies like this in the open world feels pretty good. It's also hilarious that the entire crew is just standing there and does absolutely nothing to help me. But this is exactly what I'm looking for. Our first chapter in the Grasslands is rather short. I will not focus on side content unless I decide to grind. So we visit the Chocobo farm and promise little Billy to get Pico back. AKA increase our travel speed by like 500%. So to get Pico, we need to carefully sneak up to her. Oh no. Okay, obviously, Tifa has no sneak animation, so for sections like this I need to control Cloud. The problem is, changing the controlling character back was a disaster due to how I emptied my party. That's why I had to start from the beginning and now I can freely switch characters whenever I need to. The problem now is, my team does attack from the backline, but there's sadly no way around it. But I think we all agree that this chip damage does pretty much nothing. They don't aggro bosses, I can't use synergy moves, they pretty much just pretend to be helping. So now we can catch Pico and almost have our Chocobo squad. All that's left now is fighting one of the most scary bosses. The Invisible Chadley.
Do you happen to have any... If you still have questions... Ah, yes, I detected my current theory, but until... And since we have... At any rate... If you still have
Seriously, I was afraid I'd get stuck here, but I managed to escape this hell. With our Chocobos we can now finally... With our Chocobos and Cloud as a leader so we can actually get through these cutscenes, we reach the first real boss of the game. Midgarsormr. Sorry, it's a Norwegian name, that's how it's pronounced.
Midgarsormr.
Could we agree on me calling it Midgarsormr? Yes? Thanks a lot. Okay, so I will just show you how my first attempt went.
this. I know I did.
I had no idea what I was getting into. I had to activate my HUD there for a second, by the way, just to be sure that Cloud didn't join the party for that fight. I'll just add this to rule number 1. Alright, let's talk about this boss. I don't know what your experiences are with this giant snake, but when I played the game at its release, I barely beat it first try. But now, I have its full focus. I basically need to parry the entire time and do potentially a third of the intended damage. At the time, I also didn't realize that I wasn't even on full health, because obviously I didn't see my health with no HUD. I did notice it though when I forgot to turn off the HUD in a new session. And if we play by the rules, this is information that I shouldn't have. That's why I never went leveling or healing. So on top of everything I already said, I also started the fight with a handicap. What a great time! I guess most people don't pay a lot of attention to this boss, so let me tell you a little about it. The boss has 2 different stances. Its normal stance is the way it starts out, but once you damage it enough, it curls itself up. And during this stance, the camera is your biggest enemy. Attacking its head when it constantly spins its body after every attack is so difficult. Most of the time I was just dashing left and right. Some attacks from the first stance also seem to have a different parry window, but maybe it just feels like it because the visual indicators now look different. Speaking of different looking indicators, imagine trying to parry an extremely strong attack, but instead of in front of the boss, you stand inside the boss, and you're pressed against the wall so your view is completely fucked up. And that's just the first phase. In the second phase, the boss can dive into the water and swallow a teammate. You know what my problem is? Exactly. Whenever it catches me, I'm softlocked and my game crashes. So now I have to deal with this shit as well. At first I was wondering if it was even possible, but you can actually just hide behind these trees. That didn't stop this monster from swallowing me anyway sometimes though. So I was fighting this boss for a few hours now, and despite reaching the second phase sometimes, I didn't feel like I was progressing. Looking back on my YouTube channel, I made a lot of videos featuring Yoruichi. So many that I almost forgot how to play a game without her. But Tifa is still one of my favorite characters, so I would never want to miss her. I knew something had to be done. I started channeling Yoruichi's aura, her martial arts skills, her speed. Her and Tifa's fighting styles are not that different, so what would happen if I combine their powers? Alright, time to get serious. With Purple at Tifa on my side, victory was closer than ever. Which isn't saying much when you know this fight and the amount of health this thing got, but my morale skyrocketed. Slowly but surely I started to get used to all these moves. I landed parry after parry, just to die to really stupid shit, and then missed the very same parries next attempt because I was broken. Some of my best attempts were actually after taking a break from the game, so I can only recommend it to anyone having a rough time in any fight. Several hours later I felt like I was almost done. The second phase was going on for like 5 or 6 minutes and I was aggressively landing hit after hit. But then...
Don't think you'll walk away from that!
I swear to God, I forgot there was a third phase. Now all the trees I was hiding behind were suddenly on fire and would damage me if I'd stay too close to them. And if I'm not close to them, I get swallowed again. Cool. The new fire breathing attack from phase 2, which occurred like maybe once after the scripted one, was now constantly used. And don't forget about my favorite attack. No idea what its name is, but when I look at the Wikipedia list, it's probably beta. Like in, beta get to the shore or else you're dead. You might have heard that I'm not a native speaker, so when Tifa said,
"Get to the shore, now!"
I was like, what shore? That one? I was thinking about a beach, not realizing there were these small islands where everyone else went to. And it also took me some time to realize that the fire would still damage me heavily. If the screen wouldn't have turned red because of how low I was, I would have thought I was fine. So that means I needed a good amount of health when this attack was coming, and in the best case scenario I had enough ATB to heal right after it again. It was a struggle. Especially since I, for the life of me, couldn't figure out how much I was actually healing. As time went on, and trust me, a lot of time went on, I got better and better at this fight. I consistently reached the last phase, only to die to several stupid but different things. One time I was attacking from behind the tree after the fire breath passed me, but since I was locked onto the head, guess where Tifa jumped to? Another time the beta attack was casted, and when I tried to reach the shore, I couldn't because I was wrapped in the boss's tail. This happened twice, by the way. Swallowing happened a few times as well again. It became quite frustrating, but I wasn't mad about the fight itself, because the fight is amazing. This thing was designed for 3 different people, not for only Tifa. And the fight still works really good, and parrying these attacks worked 90% of the time. The biggest problem was the camera, but like I said, usually you don't fight like that. A game changer was definitely my use of the limit attack. I wasn't quite sure if I even had one at that time, but from my other playthrough I knew where the attack is in the menu, so once I staggered the boss in the 3rd phase, I just went with it and tried to use it. With another great option for additional damage, I kept trying and trying, until I finally landed the crucial last hit. The fear of the game suddenly crashing was so high during that cutscene. When I decided to skip it, I instantly made 4 different save files. Oh my god. This boss took me like 12 to 13 hours. I don't think I've ever fought a boss that long, and as frustrating as it was to not get further in my run, these parries felt so good. It really is a great fight which I couldn't appreciate before. If you want to see the entire fight, I uploaded an unlisted video with all the full-length boss fights I've done. You can find the link in the comment section. Usually I'd let that fight play out and tell you something about the German dailies of Berlin Tag und Nacht, but this fight took 13 minutes. And I don't think I have it in me to recap Sasha's arc about accidentally killing his sister and then cooperating with a police officer to find the killer because he repressed his memory. But I can show you this really funny scene from it.
Das soll die beschissene Wahrheit sein? Es ist kein guter Zeitpunkt, Scherze zu machen!
Back on track, Tifa finally became the leader again. My game was lagging like crazy, but as I reached the mines, it luckily got better again. Now that chapter 2 was done, I could take a look into my inventory. The only thing I did though was equipping Cloud's bracelets, which I could have needed for the last boss. Inside the mine, there were 3 things I was worried about. One of them was the puzzle part, because of the minecart pudding animation. But it turns out, Tifa seems to have one. After cleverly dodging a huge amount of enemies in the next bit, I encountered my second worry, Ruth and Elena.
Assholes.
So these 2 are not a giant snake with weird camera angles, but they are 2. And 2 vs 1 boss fights piss me off 90% of the time because they are awfully done and act like individual bosses. And just like the Midgarsormr fight, when I first fought them, I barely noticed anything they've been doing. And now they're probably one of my favorite fights. Ruth and Elena are such a fun couple, even when both of them were beating me up I had fun. Because for this double boss fight, they don't function like individual bosses. So both of them have something I call a stance, and then their normal stagger bar. When you break their stance, you can actually stagger them like crazy. I'm talking about non-stop whoop ass in here, not the bar. And breaking Elena's stance is rather easy, because it just takes a single punch with unbridled strength from Tifa to do so. But the moment Elena's stance breaks, Ruth locks the fuck in and charges his next attack to help her. That's actually a super nice window to attack Ruth instead and take care of his stance. In his case, he's blocking your attacks, and when you're trying to use normal attacks, he'll counter you. A punch with unbridled strength, however, will bring him to his knees. He will still block in this position, but once you do the same thing again, his stance is broken as well. Elena will also charge an attack to help Ruth, but if she misses you and you're standing in front of the cliff, she actually falls down and takes some time to get back into the arena. I never noticed this, but she uses this attack generally as well, and it's so funny to see her fall down. Ruth's and Elena's dynamic is so funny to me, and their battle dialogue was the most Kingdom Hearts shit since Kingdom Hearts 2, to be honest.
Wait, Charlie? Whatever, just follow my lead.
You can't just wing it.
Not to mention that Elena has a gun and just straight up shoots you. They have a whole team attack you can break, but I rather just healed during that phase since Elena's uppercut doesn't do that much damage. And I needed to save my limit break for Ruth, who apparently starts charging a one-hit attack which she absolutely mustn't do. After I think 2 hours, they were down. It honestly felt like less since I had such a good time with them. My recording of that fight sadly became corrupted, so I just beat them a second time. I love these 2. So now on to my third worry for the mines. The part with Barrett and Red. I didn't even worry about the boss, but whether I could actually get Tifa in this section. And the answer is no. I tried absolutely everything possible right now, but whenever I could control Tifa, I ended up inside the map with Cloud and Aerith. My theory is that the rest of the crew is stored there during Barrett's and Red's section, because I was able to spawn Sephiroth, Zack, Yuffie and Cait Sith, but none of them. So, can you beat Final Fantasy VII Rebirth with only Tifa? No, at least not until a proper mod releases. And I know what you think right now. That's lame. Why don't you just skip this part and play as Tifa again outside the mine? Yeah, I could do that. Until the next section where I'm not able to spawn her. So I can skip that again. And the next section. and the next section. I wanted to see if I could play the entire game with Tifa, absolutely no exceptions, and right now that's not possible. However, beating this first boss was incredibly hard, but also incredibly fun, and I would love to take this challenge further. If this video performs similar to my Armored Core 6 challenge and enough people are invested, I have an idea. Tell me in the comments some proper rules for the rest of the game. How should I handle sections like this? What else could I do? Is not using the HUD too hard and I should use it for shops and leveling weapons? Give me some feedback, and if enough of you folks are interested, I'll make separate videos for the different regions, starting with the rest of the mine in the Junon region. I really hope you enjoyed the video, despite the little progress I made. It wasn't much, but the effort was on a whole different level. Thank you so much for watching until now. I'd really appreciate a like and if you'd subscribe. I want to get back to do more challenges like this, but first of all I get ready for more Rebirth of Souls, coming in March. I hope you're having a great day, stay safe, and I hope to see you again.